I had no idea what to expect from Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. I've seen several Mr. Magoo cartoons, and I found them to be quite fun and quite interesting. But the character, although um, maybe not fully of sound mind, is not a kind of individual I could see being Scrooge. So I wasn't sure how they were going to do this. But actually, it works really well. And I will explain how they present this story. So if you don't want to know that at all, I advise you watch it and then come back and share your views. I do definitely recommend it. It certainly is an interesting take on one of my favorite Christmas stories. Probably my favorite Christmas story. I just love A Christmas Carol. And Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol is certainly very interesting. It's directed by the brilliant Abe Levito, um, with a screenplay adapted from Dickens's story by Barbara Chain. And Jim Backus voices, of course, Mr. Magoo. So I'm going to explain from now what happens. And basically, very effectively, it works really well. Mr. Magoo is actually in a stage play. He is actually in a production of A Christmas Carol. So even though he is Scrooge, it's not actually Mr. Magoo as Scrooge. We're not seeing him as this negative character. He's still quirky and lovable, but he's playing this part. And seeing him play this part, I thought was a wonderful way of getting around that, of not making this character really negative. And he plays the role fantastically. And we get to see more of Mr. Magoo's true personality in the beginning when he's approaching the theatre, getting ready to go on stage. When he is Scrooge, there are still elements of Magoo in there because it's still Magoo acting, but we do get to see a different side of Magoo being Scrooge. And I thought it worked really well. It was a really lovely interpretation of the story, beautifully animated, very effectively done. It's quite long. It's a feature length, just shy of an hour, I believe, and it packs in quite a lot. I think there were bits they could have cut out and made it a bit shorter, not because I don't think there are bits of A Christmas Carol that are enjoyable, but just certain things that didn't necessarily come across as well in Mr. Magoo's world as they do in other adaptations. But generally speaking, I thought Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol was brilliant, very cleverly done, wonderfully animated. If you're a fan of Mr. Magoo, definitely watch it. If you've never seen any Mr. Magoo before and you just want to see A Christmas Carol, this is obviously not the first one I'd recommend, but I'd say check out a couple of other Mr. Magoos first so you can get a better understanding of what the character is like, and then have a look at this. I think it's something that you will really thoroughly enjoy.